Ma'am, we are on live.
Fine, thank you.
Shall we start?
शुरू नहीं हुआ।
Ritu ma'am? Ritu ma'am, shall we start now?
Yes, sir, we are online.
General Geriok, sir, good morning, sir. We are starting, sir.
Yes, please. Kindly go ahead.
Sir, a very good morning, respected Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, Founder President, MIT Education Group, a true patriot and a guiding light to all the MITians. Dr. Atul Chauhan, Chancellor, MIT University, Uttar Pradesh. Professor Dr. Binder Shukla, Vice Chancellor, MIT University, Uttar Pradesh. Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gideock, Director General, MIT Institute of Defense and Strategic Study and MIT Center for Defense and Strategic Analysis. Our esteemed guest, Lieutenant General Dharamveer Kalra, Lieutenant General Shantanu Dayal, Air Marshal Vinod Kumar Bhatia, Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, panelists, faculties, and student fraternity. This indeed is a matter of immense interest and learning outcome that MIT Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies and MIT Center for Defense and Strategic Analysis to conduct the insightful virtual seminar on VIJAY DIWAS, Indian Victory in 1971 India-Pakistan War. The primary aim of organizing this virtual event, besides celebrating the Indian victory in 1971 war, is to familiarize all MITians to get well acquainted with the genesis of Indo-Pak War when India decisively gained resounding victory against vanquished Pakistan, resulting in the birth of Bangladesh. Before I request Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gideock to deliver the welcome address, let me briefly introduce him. Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gideock, Ati Visit Seva Medal, is Director General of MIT Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies and MIT Center for Defense and Strategic Analysis. He is Vice President, MIT Science, Technology and Innovation Foundation, Vice Chairman, MIT Institute of Defense Technology, and Commandant, MIT Institute of Education and Training. He was commissioned into Indian Army on 11th June 1977. During his distinguished career, he served two presidents as ADC, commanded a guard unit, an armored brigade, and an infantry division. Beside many staff and command appointments, he served as logistic advisor to Botswana Defense Forces at Gaborone, Botswana. He is specifically selected by Chief as Commandant, Defense Services Staff College, Wellington in 2014, where he received many national awards. He is decorated with Ati Visit Seva Medal for his distinguished service, beside being awarded 2 Chief of Army Staff Commendation Card. He did his MSc, MPhil in Defense and Strategic Studies, and Diploma in Senior Level Defense Management, done his doctorate in Defense and Strategic Studies from University of Madras. He has written a number of articles and recently authored a book, War to Peace, Wisdom and Leadership, elaborating ex-serviceman role in good governance and rural development. He is in true sense scholar warrior. Now I would request Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gideock to deliver the welcome address, please. Sir.
Thank you very much, Colonel Dr. Rajan Bakshi, who happens to be the director of MIT Center for Defense Strategic Analysis. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please pardon me. I'm not to be seen, but even my ghost image, if at all you remember, I would like to welcome each one of you on this very propitious day of VIJAY DIWAS. Venerable Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, Founder President, MIT Education Group, Dr. Atul Chauhan, the Chancellor, MIT University, Uttar Pradesh, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla, the Vice Chancellor, MIT University, Uttar Pradesh, and even Dr. Selvamurthy happens to be the Director General ASTIF and President ADSI, besides also being the Vice President of MIT Institute of Defense Strategic Study. I also extend a very hearty welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to all the distinguished guests, the veterans from armed forces, Vice Chancellor, Pro VCs, HOIs, faculties, and student fraternity. I've sent out the link to all my friends. And let me tell you, there are a whole lot of veterans, especially from the armed forces and other, professions, who are today watching this program, which has been orchestrated by Colonel Dr. Razan Bakshi. We at Amity, ladies and gentlemen, are extremely grateful on behalf of the Honorable Founder President to welcome Lieutenant General D.V. Kalra, PVSM, AVSM retired, to deliver the keynote address today to the Super Constellation Brilliant Amity students, the dynamic future leaders of tomorrow, and a very hearty welcome to each one of you. May we have a big applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Well, today, in this seminar, I must buttress and reiterate that Dr. Ashok Chauhan, the Honorable Founder President, has always cogitated on multifarious global challenges, spectrum of conflict, and implications on Indian national security matters. The virtual seminar is conducted to commemorate the Indian victory in 71 war on the Western and Eastern Front as part of national jubilations in the country. Well, I must tell you that the aim of the seminar is primarily to be student-centric, so that the students gain from it in very meaningful dimension. This virtual seminar is also to motivate and promote stimulating support to the young, unignited minds in defense and strategic studies domain, making it very impactful, notable, and accentuating the quest for strategic and critical thinking, which happens to be the essence in my department. I must also reiterate that the creation of the continuous desired evidence revolution is a quest amongst all the Amitians on matters pertinent to global security, national, that is all the conflicts which are there on the globe, and has significant outcomes. That is very important. The 71 war was shortest, 13 days, the first war in which India's post-independence era, India displayed its firm political resolve and robust military capability. It manifested an adroit, synchronized, synergetic application of comprehensive national power to transform the crisis into decisive victory, creating a friendly neighbor on its eastern border to meet its vital long-term national security interests. An effective tri-services military strategy was executed with tremendous elan and swift offensive in the east, offensive operations in the west, and defensive with dissuasive deployment along the northern borders against China. Because we must not forget that we were also privy to some kind of movements and deployment taking place at the line of actual control. Now let's hear the interesting battle accounts from the Mavericks and students shortly. But I must reiterate one or two issues, and that is that in 71, India decisively won the war against the vanquished Pakistan, resulted in the birth of Bangladesh, then East Pakistan. Now, the military confrontation occurred on 3rd December to the inevitable fall of Dhaka on 16th, and Pakistan launched the airstrikes on 11 Indian air bases and hence was termed as aggressors, which Mrs. Indira Gandhi, at that time, in fact, we always have known her as the lady of substance and the Iron Lady of India. Well, it was the first time in a conflict environment in which India's tri-services synergy manifested desired unison to achieve the envisioned terminal objectives. This was all done with meticulous strategized planning and execution with utmost professionalism under the capable military leadership of later Sam Manekshaw, the Field Marshal. And as the strategic surprise and tactical deception payoffs, which have failed, that is impacted, the visualized ascendant end state was achieved in the battlefield milieu by the Indian military strategists and the forces. It was also the largest military surrender of 93,000 Pakistani prisoners after Second World War II, humiliating, equally mortifying for every Pakistani soldier to lay down his arms and capitulate to the superior enemy forces of India. The Indian Armed Forces fought relentless actions with intrepidity combined with brilliant stratagems in the multi-dimensional domains of land, sea, and air, and gave 75 million people of Bangladesh the deserved freedom, equality, and justice, and independence from blasphemy, oppression, and tyrannical subjugation of human race under unprecedented despotic state governance of Pakistan. General Ziaji signed the instrument of surrender on 16 December in Dhaka with utmost ignominy and depression. Well, I'll only say that in the Western theater, the Pakistan forces had moved, and we were able to capture very successfully about 15,000 in 10 kilometers of their territory. And the war lasted 13 days, like I said. We're very proud of the fact that in the history of mankind, this was the shortest war. Pakistan had evil designs because it was appreciated that in the West, the strategy would be to secure vital territory in J&K and return after the war so that it comes as a bargaining chip. But we saw through the plan that launching major offensives in the plains of Jammu, Punjab, northern Rajasthan with a view to capturing important territory and inflicting maximum possible damage, that is on the Indian Armed Forces. In the international perspective, I must remind you that the 7th Fleet during Nixon's time had sailed, and this was part of so-called gunboat diplomacy. As also later ostensibly, it would have helped to evacuate the Pakistan army, which was deployed that time in East Pakistan. The agreement converted the line of, that is the ceasefire line of 17 December into the line of control, which is still continuing between India and Pakistan. We have mutual differences, and this was also interpreted by the then leadership that of Pakistan that we should have the United Nations Military Observer Group, and they should, that will be UN MOGIP in short, it's an acronym, and it was to monitor the ceasefire line as per the Karachi Agreement of 49, which no longer exists. So India had said that the UN MOGIP is not required, and because it's defunct, as we do not conform now to the Karachi Agreement. However, the Delhi Agreement on the repatriation of war and civil internees was a tripartite agreement among the states, and it was signed on 28 August 73. And the agreement was signed by the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Minister of External Affairs of India, and Minister of State for Defense and Foreign Affairs of Pakistan. Now, thus ended the 71 Indo-Pak War, where Pak got a bloody nose, embarrassment, shameless publicity of its abuse of human rights, issues pertaining to rape, murder, arson, looting, and defiling places of worship, and largely denying the civil liberties to the people of East Pakistan. In the end, I would only like to say that Pakistan paid for their sins through blood and disgrace. They left a pathetic legacy of inhuman torture with turmoil. They died in blatant vein of disgraceful conduct with a blemished chapter in their history. No country can be proud of Pakistan. May no nation be disgraced and mortified like Pakistan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient hearing. Har Maidan Fateh. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir, for your welcome address on this auspicious occasion of Vijay Diwas. And before I invite our esteemed guest, Lieutenant General D.V. Kalra, Param Visis Seva Medal, Ati Visis Seva Medal, to deliver the keynote address, let me introduce him. Lieutenant General Kalra has joined PhD research program of MET Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies at MET University, Uttar Pradesh at the age of 88, and he has been source of inspiration to all of us. Lieutenant General Kalra retired from Indian Army on 31st March 1993 after 39 years of meritorious service. He held various coveted appointments in the Army like Major General Operational Logistic in Command, Commandant and Principal, College of Material Management, rising to become the Director General, Ordnance Services. He holds MSc degree in Defense Studies, MPhil from Madras University, MA Political Science, MBA and MSc Munition Technology from Rani Durgavati Vishwavidyalaya, Jabalpur. Beside technical qualification from UK, he is alumnus of Defence Service Staff College, Long Defence Management Course and National Defence College. He specializes in logistic and supply chain management. He was Dean, Faculty of Management, Rani Durgavati Vishwavidyalaya, Jabalpur, Consultant, Ministry of Defence, Government of India, Consultant, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and member, National Audit Advisory Board. The General Officer commanded an ordnance unit in Congo and traveled extensively worldwide to all continents, covering over 25 countries, both during service and post-retirement. He is Fellow of Indian Management Association, erstwhile Fellow of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and Distinguished Member, Board of Studies, Indian Institute of Material Management. In addition, Lieutenant General Kalra has authored a number of professional papers and presented the same at various national and international seminars. His book, Supply Chain Management Strategy, Planning and Operation, co-authored with two American authors, is a standard text in Indian and South Asian management institutes. The General Officer was awarded Param Visar Seva Medal and Ati Visar Seva Medal by President of India in 1988 and 1992. May I now request Lieutenant General Kalra to kindly deliver the keynote address, please. Sir.
Good morning, General Gadio. Good morning, Colonel Rajan. I do hope you can hear me, and I do hope you can see me before I proceed.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay? Right.
Yes, sir.
Respected Dr. Ashok Chauhan, Honorable Founder, President, MIT Education Group. Dr. Atul Chauhan, esteemed Chancellor, MIT University, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Professor Brinda Shukla, Honorable Vice Chancellor, MIT University, Uttar Pradesh. And of course, General Gadiok, the Director, AIDSS and ACDSS, is also heading the fraternity at the MIT, and my fellow researchers at the MIT University. It's an honor for me to be asked to address you on this occasion, on this momentous occasion. I would say that considering the vintage to which I belong, I would like to go back into a bit of history to put the things in place, because I'm a witness to history. The partition of Pakistan was basically, I call it a congenital defect. It was born on the basis of hatred, on the basis of two-nation theory, which is totally discredited now. I am aware, when I lived as in my childhood in that part of the world, which is now Pakistan, there was perfect harmony between us and the other communities for a long, long time, till, of course, the partition jingo started and the things worsened. I grew up in the midst of those children, and I still remember very fondly those places. So I feel that, firstly, the foundation of Pakistan itself was, as I said, congenitally, it was basically founded on the wrong premise. And today they are paying the price for that. And also, there is a structural defect in the configuration of Pakistan. A country with two separate parts, separated by 1,000 miles of a territory which you, at least at best you can say, is not friendly. So how do you manage two wings of a country so distant apart, where there's no way for you to communicate or to travel or to move except to go around the sea? So this is a structural defect which in the end showed itself as to this kind of a unusual, unnatural situation cannot obtain for a long time. So that is as far as the background is concerned. I would say that as General Gadiok has very rightly brought out, all the thinkers on military history, military strategy have said that wars are easy to start, but difficult to end. and they have the habit of going out of control and become long duration war. Second World War went that way, and many other instances. But this particular war of ours, I think, brings out a very good lesson. Here, we did not start the war. So we had to fight it out when the war was thrust upon us. And yet we were able to bring it to a decisive and conclusive close at the end of about 14 days with a decisive victory. I think there is a great lesson to be learned from here that if you plan well, you execute well, you can bring a war to end and bring it conclusively, decisively in your favor. So I think this particular war has a great lesson for every military historian. And I should go down in the military history of the world as one of the things to learn from. So I think duration of war, to control it, is something which strategists know how to handle the situation. And here I will go on in the end to say as to how this has been done. Then we entered the war on the side of Bengalis, on the side of East Pakistan, where persecution was rampant. All sorts of injustice was being done to a wing of the nation. And, Pakistan, as I said in the beginning, came into being on the basis of a two-nation theory. Now, the religion cannot by itself be the foundation of a nation. Religion by itself is not enough. You need many other things, a common past and a common future for people to adhere and stick together. That is what makes a nation. Otherwise, this fragile kind of situation was bound to fall apart one day or the other. So, insofar as Pakistan's appreciation of the conduct of this war is concerned, as far as we can make out, they believed that they could engage the Indian army on the west and keep it occupied through its operations and trying to gain some territory here, so that the Indian army could not use its forces on the east side to stop their genocide and to let them have their own way. But then I think here is a case, we were taught right in the beginning in the academy, always maintenance of aim, never forget your aim. India had a very clear aim, that is to liberate or to go and fight for the people of East Pakistan at that time, because they were fighting for a just war. And we joined a just war because that is our culture, joined on what is dharma, what is correct. And so India joined this war because of a situation which was so created by Pakistan, and we had to intervene to see to it that those refugees went back, and the East Pakistanis realized their desires to be independent country. And therefore, I think it is a very, very just war that we fought. And for that, I think India needs to be credited and given a lot of credit. And I think we all can be justly proud that, and generations to come will also be very proud that we did fight a very just war and did result in a very favorable outcome. Now, so far as Pakistan is concerned, as I said, that they had misread the whole thing as to how they will do it. And because of now in war, your aim must always be very clear, as we told. If on the way you lose your aim, then you do not get anywhere. When the Pakistani raiders invaded Kashmir at the beginning of independence, well, they were making progress, all right, except that they lost their way and started looting and raping and forgot that their aim was to come to Srinagar, and they were just stopped in time. Here, India remained absolutely focused and achieved its aim very, very clearly and very effectively. Now, being a logistics man, I would say that here again, Pakistan was handicapped very badly because of the two parts of the country being 1,000 miles apart, and they could not reach the kind of supplies. And in fact, the Pakistanis, in their wisdom or lack of it, they did not deploy sufficient forces for East Pakistan and did not reinforce. Even the Air Force was not kept back, which they could have used effectively. But having Indian Air Force having got air superiority, and they kept on reserving the Air Force on the west, and which could not intervene. Otherwise, also they could not reinforce, and all the seaports were blocked. India effectively did that, and logistics therefore played a very major role in this particular war. I would say, being a logistician, I can say, however, in the end, I would like to say only one thing. You see, our victory can be attributed to 3 or 4 very solid points. That is, we had a very resolute and a very determined leadership. and they were very clear in their aim as to what to do, and nothing will change them. The military advice which was given to them was not only very, very professional, but also very candid. The no words were held back, facts were told, and the political leadership shows the magnanimity to listen to that advice. And that's why postponed the operation till when that time was opportune. The diplomats also did their own work. The people went around the whole world, and then we tied up ourselves with the USSR in a partnership, which came in very handy. The tri-service synergy, the way they work together, is a great example, and I think that is the way things should function. And I think all these things, fortunately or fortuitously, as I call it, came together at a very opportune time, and that is what led to this absolutely glorious victory. And I think today I can now wish you all a very, very happy 52nd Vijay Divas of India, and may God bless you, and may the army and may the people continue to form in such way in the future as well, and carry lessons from this very wonderful episode. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful address, which has been very inspiring and exciting for all of us. Before I invite our next esteemed guest, Lieutenant General Shantanu Dayal, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Uttam Youth Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, to give an overview of land operation of Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. Let me introduce him. Lieutenant General Shantanu Dayal was commissioned in Indian Army in June 84 and retired after 38 years of meritorious service as Deputy Chief of Army Staff on 31st October 2022. General Dayal has seen active military operation and command of units and formation in Sri Lanka, Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and Assam. He commanded a corps on LAC with China in Arunachal Pradesh and division on LOC with Pakistan in Jammu and Kashmir. He held many important staff appointments as Director General, DCNW, and ADG Procurement, held foreign assignment under United Nations in Guatemala, Iraq, and Kuwait. He headed Indian delegation to Australia in 2015, Nepal in 2019, and France in 2022. He has done Defense Services Staff College, HDMC, and NDC, and hold MSc from Madras University, MMS from Osmania University, and MPhil from Madras University. He is presently pursuing his PhD from CCS University, Meerut, on Pakistan-China collusion. He has published 2 books, Non-Initiation of Combat Operation, NICO, on CI operation in J&K in 2000, and C4I2SR for Indian Army, a cost-effective system, in 2009. For his distinguished service, he was awarded Mention in Dispatches in Sri Lanka, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal and Sena Medal in Jammu and Kashmir, Uttam Youth Seva Medal in Arunachal Pradesh, Sena Medal in Assam, and Param Vishisht Seva Medal for overall service to Army and the country. Post-retirement service, he had been advisor, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, New Delhi, and consultant, Bharat Dynamics Limited, New Delhi. May I request General Shantanu Dayal to kindly commence the talk, please. Sir.
Thank you, Rajan, for those flattering words. Today on the Vijay Divas, let me take this opportunity to extend my greetings to all who are there in this virtual seminar. Dr. Ashok Chauhan, Honorable Founder President of Amity, Dr. Atul Chauhan, esteemed Chancellor, Professor Balvinder Shukla, Honorable Vice Chancellor, General Gatiok, DG Amity International Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, General Kalra, whom we just heard, and all other panelists, students, faculty members, everybody, I extend my greetings to all of you. Let me start with saying that victory in 1971 was one of the greatest victories India has achieved in its entire history. It is also one of the finest victories in military terms achieved by any army in the world. There have been battles, there have been victories, there have been defeats, but the precise and the clinical nature of victory which was achieved by India in Bangladesh or East Pakistan at that point of time is perhaps unparalleled anywhere in the world. It, as has already been brought out, we achieved complete victory over the entire country at that point of time, that is East Pakistan, that part of the country. Out of the 93,000 prisoners of war, 89,767 were actual uniformed military personnel of Army, Navy, Air Force. It is also unparalleled. Pakistan Army lost 8,000 personnel killed, 25,000 personnel wounded in a short war. We also sacrificed about 3,000 Indian soldiers. In West Pakistan, as has already been brought out by General Gadio, we captured 15,000 square kilometers. Just to put it in perspective, when we measure the area of Delhi NCR, that is Rohtak on one side, Meerut on the other side, Gurgaon, Faridabad, Greater Noida, all these areas, when you make an area out of it, it comes to somewhere around 10,000 square kilometers. So this is 15,000 square kilometers was captured by India in 1971 on the western sector, and the entire eastern Pakistan was captured. In geostrategic terms, as a result of 71 war, India was catapulted as a regional power. Prior to that, India's stature in the Committee of Nations was not so high. We forever removed the threat which was persisting in the East. We also, as has been brought out by General Kalra, totally nullified, totally jettisoned the two-nation theory based on which Pakistan was created. And more importantly, the most important thing, it enhanced the self-esteem of our country exponentially. The country became more confident, more self-assured. After the war, as you are all aware, the results of the agreement in Shimla in 1972, I will come to that subsequently. And another important thing which happened was the J&K issue, while it was not fully solved, but prior to 71, it was always a function of what had transpired in the UN Security Council in 1948, resolution number 47, which had the clause of plebiscite. Now that issue was overcome to a great degree by an agreement with Pakistan, wherein both sides agreed to make it a bilateral issue and to resolve it peacefully. So while we had a complete military victory, the political gains had some constraints. Let me go to the background of the manner in which the battle unfolded, or the battle started. The context has been very nicely brought out by General Kalra and General Gadio. When East and West Pakistan started their life, the issues which had emerged in these two countries one was sharing of the finances, the revenue sharing. As you all must be aware, from 1947 onwards till about 50s and 60s, the revenue or the income which this country had, Pakistan had, was essentially or more biased from East Pakistan. East Pakistan had a lot of industries in the form of cottage industries, jute industries, which they used to export. However, the revenues were all shared with, or by and large, substantially taken by West Pakistan. That was one major issue. The second issue was language. In 1948 March, Mr. Jinnah went to Dhaka and announced repeatedly in three of his meetings there that the official language of entire Pakistan, including East Pakistan, where we all aware language is predominantly Bengali, that the language will be Urdu. Now see the irony of the situation. Mr. Jinnah himself was not very fluent in Urdu. He gave this talk, or he gave this lecture in English, directing or kind of ordering that the language will be Bengali. This was a major kind of a problem which started increasing, which started becoming more pronounced as time went by. Then the issue of the manner in which West Pakistan is to look on East Pakistan was also a major issue. The East Pakistanis did not find place in the higher echelons of the governance and the army. Most of the top positions in the bureaucracy, in the armed forces, were all taken by the West Pakistanis, despite a large number of East Pakistanis having been more qualified. It was realized that religion was not adequate to bind these two parts of that country. Now, when this happened, a young leader at that point of time in 1947-48, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, along with his Awami League party, propounded the 6-point demand. What were the 6 points? 6 points actually were those points which reflected the aspirations of eastern part of Pakistan. Number 1 was that the central government will only deal with foreign affairs and defense, currency, revenue, money sharing will all be by divided into 2 parts as per pro rata. East Pakistan should also have some kind of a paramilitary forces. Now, you see the complexion of these demands. The demands were basically higher level of federation, higher level of federal structure which they wanted. However, it was construed in the Western Pakistan as some kind of a separatism or some kind of a demand for a separate country. Now, this issue kept festering, kept enlarging in scope and intensity, and successive governments, there was no government as such, but successive people who were at the helm of the affairs in both East and West Pakistan could not kind of moderate this. To the extent that by the time 1970, when the first general elections was held, the views or the issues were totally polarized. Pakistan general elections in 1970, out of 313 seats in the General Assembly, Awami League under Sheikh Mujibur Rahman won 167 seats, absolute majority. The second largest party, the West Pakistan Party, the People's Party under Bhutto, won only 69 seats or 67 seats. Now, it is quite natural for the government to be offered to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman or the Awami League. The assembly was to be convened on 3rd or 4th of March 1971. Yahya Khan, who was the dictator at that point of time, or so-called the president at that point of time, did not call the General Assembly, which led to large-scale riots, large-scale agitation in East Pakistan. The issue of Biharis also came in. Biharis were migrants from India who were Hindi speaking and who had migrated to Pakistan or East Pakistan in 1947. Large-scale killing of these Biharis because they were perceived to be aligned to the West Pakistan government took place. In retaliation, West Pakistan or General Yahya launched the Operation Searchlight. This was an operation to massacre the intelligentsia and other East Pakistan gentry, and the so-called genocide started in East Pakistan. As per various assessments, somewhere between 3 lakhs to 30 lakh Bangladeshis or Bengalis were massacred between March 1971 till December 1971 when the war started. So with that kind of a background, or that is the situation under which India had to kind of intervene, was forced to intervene. In March, when genocide started, a large number of refugees started coming in West Bengal, Assam, parts of Bihar, Tripura, Manipur, all these places. The quantum and the magnitude was so high, and India, remember, that point of time was not very developed or not very rich country. Almost 10 million, almost 1 crore refugees had come. Indira Gandhi had gone to many Western countries seeking help, though some help was provided, but they were very, very minuscule in quantum. Thereafter, in the month of April, the Cabinet Committee Political Affairs meeting, chief at that point of time, General Shyam Manekshaw, was called, and he was directed to launch operations in East Pakistan to stop this genocide. That was the initial kind of a direction, and ensure that these refugees which had come into India go back. General Manekshaw, as you all aware, got more time and preparations were made. In the meantime, things started happening in West Pakistan also. The view in West Pakistan as the time from March, April, May, there were a lot of banners, crush India, defeat the Hindus, those kind of slogans, those kind of views, especially by the People's Party, that time led by Mr. Bhutto, happened. As you are all aware, they had no constitution at that point of time. The elections were held, but the elections were held in abeyance because the party which had achieved the majority was not permitted to form the government. And therefore, a sense of instability, a sense of uncertainty, a sense of total flux in which violence was prevailing both in East and West Pakistan. Sentiments in East and West Pakistan was very high against India because they were perceiving, or they thought that it is India which is kind of conspiring against the Pakistanis, which is not so. At the end of December, when things went from bad to worse, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was arrested. On his arrest, the violence levels increased drastically. And then on 3rd of December, Pakistan launched air raids on 11 of our airfields from West Pakistan. Consequent to this air raid being launched, Indira Gandhi announced commencement of war, or that India is at war with Pakistan because of the raid on our airfields by Pakistan. Indian Army, along with Mukti Bahini, entered East Pakistan. As also, war started on various sectors in West Pakistan. Now, let me explain in some detail what happened in East Pakistan. If you look at Bangladesh today, the map today, Rajan, I hope I have got 10 minutes more.
No, you got 5 minutes more, sir.
Okay.
So
now, if you look at East Pakistan or Bangladesh map, which is divided into 4 broad parts, with the Brahmaputra River, as it is called in our country. When it goes into Bangladesh, it is called Jamna. It divides between East and West Pakistan. Thereafter, the Ganga River in our country, which when it enters Bangladesh, it is called Padma. And PAK River, which flows from Manipur towards Dhaka, joins the Jamna River. That is called Meghna. These 4 sectors had 4 division worth of Pakistanis, 14 and 16 division in the north and 36 and 9 division in the south. Indian Army operations were orchestrated by approximately 2 corps plus, that is 4 corps from Tejpur, led by General Sagar Singh. Tejpur, as you are aware, were deployed against China. They left 2 of the divisions on the China front to cater for any Chinese intrusion or Chinese activities, and launched operations from the east, basically from Tripura and from Sylhet area of Assam towards area of Pomila and further on the eastern part of Dhaka. On the west, we launched with 9 division and 4 division towards Jessore and Khulna. And from the north, 101 area under General Nagar started operations from the north Shillong area towards Dhaka. By the end of 14 days, as has been brought out, in the first few days only, Air Force achieved complete air superiority. Our Navy was able to completely isolate the sea ports, basically Khulna and Chittagong, and prevent any activities or prevent any influence of the Southern Fleet of the Americans and few other warships which the UK had also deployed at that point of time in Bay of Bengal. And therefore, the complete Bangladesh and their army was totally isolated. Indian Army with about 8 to 9 divisions was able to launch very good operations. The concept was to bypass the heavily fortified communication centers and hit for the center of gravity of Dhaka. 101 Brigade, the 2 para battalion was the first to reach Dhaka from the north. They crossed the Meghna, the Mirpur bridge, and surprised everybody by reaching Dhaka first. By that time, the situation or the state of the Pakistan Army in Eastern Command or Eastern Theatre was absolutely in the boots. General Niazi was the Eastern Army commander. He immediately accepted the call for ceasefire and surrender. This was the first, thereafter, as you are all aware, General Jacob, the Chief of Staff, Eastern Command, and subsequently General Arora, the Army Command, Eastern Command, moved in, and a surrender ceremony under full public glare, full media glare of the whole world was signed on the racecourse of Dhaka, wherein all the troops, approximately 25,000 troops, laid down the arms in Dhaka garrison. The surrender ceremony was also held in various other garrisons where the troops were there. Coming now to the Western Front. On the Western Front, gentlemen, for paucity of time, let me just cover the important areas where the operations took place. Starting from the north, the Ladakh sector, operations were launched along the Indus Valley, where about 6 to 7 kilometers of land was occupied. Then when we come to the Kargil sector, there again along the Shingo Valley, Olthingthang area and further little west, some capture was done. In the Kandhar Baul area, the area south of Kandhar Baul, the place called Lipa and the Lipa Valley, part of that Lipa Valley was captured by us. Going further south in the area of Rajouri Punch, famous Nangi Tekri battle and the Balnoi battles took place, and these areas were captured. Further south in the area of Marala headworks, a certain amount of land was captured, but a major operation took place in the Sakargal Bulge, which I presume separate talk will be taken on that. But a major victory took place there, when from Jafarwal right up to Sakargar proper, the complete area in the Sakargar Bulge was captured by us. Our armored troops, along with infantry, did a good job there. Going further south in the area of Fazilka, Firozpur, certain amount of land was captured, certain amount of land was also small enclave were taken, and the largest chunk of land was taken extreme south in the Gadra Naya Chor area, where right up to Naya Chor the area was captured. Total 15,000 square kilometers was captured, out of which about 7,000 square kilometers was returned. All those areas across the international boundary was returned. Those in the JNK area was retained. About 8,000 square kilometers was retained by us. So with this, the battle came to an end on 16th of December, when Pakistani forces in Eastern Command surrendered without any condition, totally, and surrendered themselves to the Indian Army. In Western Front, large chunk of land was taken by us. India achieved a complete victory. I can only say in the end that Pakistan at that point of time appeared to have learned a lot of lessons, but over a period of time it appears to have forgotten those lessons, and maybe the time has come again to show them those lessons again to them. But I will like to cover just 1 or 2 points, 1 minute more, Rajan. Pakistan issued an inquiry on their own, Hamudar Rahman inquiry, which apparently brought out the actual facts, actual atrocities which was done by Pakistan Army. As some of you may be aware, originally Amudar Rahman was a Chief Justice of Bengali origin. He made 9 copies. The articulations in that report was so damaging that the original 9 copies, out of which 8 copies were destroyed, only 1 copy is retained somewhere in Pakistan. And a subsidiary or a secondary report was made by Amudar committee, part of which has been still remains classified, part of which has been now declassified, and part of it is available, which essentially brings out these facts which I have brought out. New constitution was immediately, the work on new constitution started, and as you are all aware, let me put in an anecdote in the end. As the war ended, as the war was ending, one of the grave concern with our Indira Gandhi was how to get, because as you are aware, Mr. Rahman, Mujibur Rahman was under arrest in West Pakistan. So without his coming back to East Pakistan after Bangladesh was declared as an independent country, it would have been all chaos in East Pakistan too. So therefore, how to get him out alive and well to lead the country. On 15th of December, Mr. Bhutto was in UN Security Council. At that point of time, he was fighting for a ceasefire to be imposed by UN Security Council. Obviously, the ceasefire was not imposed by UN Security Council because of the veto by USSR. However, when Mr. Bhutto was coming back to India, he had to stop over in London. The chief secretary in Eastern Pakistan, his wife was sent to London, or perhaps he was already in London, and he briefly met Bhutto at the airport and conveyed that nothing is the resolve of the Indian government, that no harm should come to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and he should be returned safely and in a good condition back to East Pakistan. As a result of which, immediately after next day when Bhutto reached and the surrender was actualized, Mr. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was returned safe to Bangladesh, and he thereafter went on to become the president. And India's victory, institution of Bangladesh as an independent country, recognition of Bangladesh as an independent country, and all the things which happened after that, all could be done very nicely and smoothly. So in the end, this continues till today, one of the greatest victories India has. I thank Committee University for giving me this opportunity to speak on this occasion. Thank you so much, and my best wishes on this happy day to all the participants, all members of this virtual seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your exhaustive coverage of the topic, especially the land aspect and overall view of the battle, how it unfolded. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Ms. Arushi Anthal, PhD scholar at AIDSS, to deliver the talk on gallant action of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal, Paramveer Chakra at Battle of Basantar. Arushi is June 2023 batch PhD scholar doing research on India-Philippines bilateral strategic partnership. Ms. Arushi Anthal, please.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope I'm audible. Sir, I'll take a minute to share my screen.
Sure. Yes, Arushi, it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Slides are visible.
Sure, sir. Sir, may I ask if it is in the full screen mode? If it is in the
Okay, you can start,
presentation mode?
please. It
Okay,
is
sir.
visible comfortably. Start.
Sure, sir. I apologize for the screen, which looks like this. I hoped it was in the presentation mode. But a very good morning to all the panelists, faculties, and student fraternity. So it is my honor and privilege to join this esteemed gathering to celebrate the success of Indo-Pak 1971 war. The topic that I have been given the opportunity to speak about is Battle of Basantar, the Shakargarh Bulge, gallant actions of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, Paramveer Chakra, posthumous. I once again express my sincere gratitude for your time and participation. Ladies and gentlemen, today we embark on a journey back to a pivotal moment in history. A moment that not only altered the geopolitical landscape of South Asia, but also exemplified the epitome of valor and sacrifice. Step back with me into the pages of history to December 1971, a month that witnessed a symphony of gunfire and rumble of tanks as two nations clashed for freedom. As we step into the winter of 1971, the subcontinent was in the throes of war that would redefine its borders. The Indo-Pak War of 1971 was not just a conflict between nations. It was a struggle for freedom and justice, particularly in East Pakistan, now known as Bangladesh. In the chronicles of history, we are privileged to glimpse moments frozen in time. This slide offers a visual narrative which captures the essence of 1971 battle through the lens of few available images, with windows into the courage and sacrifices of that pivotal era. Moving on, our destination, the Battle of Basantar and the Shakargarh Bulge during the 1971 Indo-Pak War. Today, we unravel the heroic tale of Battle of Basantar and one name that echoes through time, Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal. In a visual narrative, this slide presents three sequential images, progressing from a grand perspective to a very intimate scale, portraying the dynamic landscape of the Shakargarh Bulge. Each frame unveils the strategic significance, capturing the nuanced details of historical background.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Picture a battlefield marked by determination and a river, the Basantar, a natural defense line that would soon become a theater of resilience. Amidst the chaos and strategic maneuvers, a young officer emerged as a symbol of unwavering courage. Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal. Born into a family with a tradition of military service, Arun embodied the spirit of duty and sacrifice. His journey to the battlefield was shaped by his early life experiences and a deep-rooted commitment to save his nation. Now, let's zoom in on the canvas of conflict. The Battle of Basantar, fought from December 4 to December 16, 1971, was a defining moment in the war. Indian forces faced determined Pakistani resistance as they sought to breach the Shakargarh Bulge. The landscape was treacherous and troop movements were meticulously planned. The challenges were not only strategic, but also logistical, as both sides engaged in a high-stake games of maneuver and counter-maneuvers. The Battle of Basantar took place during the one-course offensive in the Shakargarh sector. India employed 2 armored brigades to support its offensive by 3 infantry divisions, and Pakistan's reaction was swift. On December 16th and 17th, when Indian infantry captured certain villages at the river Basantar, Pakistan sent in an armored brigade. The 17 Pune horse, equipped with a Centurion tank, blunted the Pakistani armored offensive. One particular action at Barapind saw one long tank troop, 3 tanks of the 17 Pune horse, Indian Army take on an entire squadron of Pattons of the 13th Cavalry, the Pakistan Army. When one of the tanks was hit and disabled, and the another tank's gun was jammed, the troop commander, Captain Malhotra, gave the order for the last remaining tank to withdraw. But this tank, led by Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, stuck to its position and kept firing at the Pattons till the last moment, when Second Lieutenant Khetrapal was hit and killed. These 3 tanks accounted for more than 10 tanks out of the squadron. So impressed were the Pakistanis with this action that the squadron commander of Pakistan's 13th Cavalry, Major Nisar, came over to the Indian lines after the ceasefire to talk to the tank commanders who had blunted his offensive. Moving on to the next part of my presentation, this slide depicts a few images of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal's life. From left to the right, first is an image of his. Second is his picture with his family. Third is a picture of his NDA days. Fourth is his mother receiving the Paramveer Chakra from then President V.V. Giri. And lastly is the Paramveer Chakra. So picture this, the thunderous roar of tanks, the acrid scent of gunpowder, and the chaos of battle. Arun Khetrapal's tank troop became a symbol of tenacity as they faced off against the Pakistani forces. When Troop Commander Captain Malhotra gave the order for the last remaining tank to withdraw, this gallant officer sent a message to his commander. No, sir, I will not abandon my tank. My gun is still working and I will get these guys, before switching off his transmitter, so that he did not receive any more orders to evacuate his tank and continued his relentless pursuit of the enemy. On the 16th of December 1971, Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, riding his battle-hardened Centurion tank, engaged the enemy with unparalleled ferocity. His gallant actions led to the destruction of multiple Pakistani tanks, turning the tide of the battle. However, victory came at a cost. In this relentless pursuit of his mission, Arun Khetrapal's tank sustained critical damage. But unfazed by the imminent danger, he continued to fight. He refused to abandon his post, even as his tank became a blazing inferno. Arun Khetrapal's indomitable spirit and sacrifice did not go unnoticed. For his gallant actions, he was posthumously awarded the Paramveer Chakra, India's highest military decoration. Moving on to the next slide. This slide depicts the stone mural of the Battle of Basantar and the bust of Second Lieutenant Khetrapal at the National War Memorial at New Delhi. So, the researcher in me has urged me to put forth a few takeaways from the Battle of Basantar. As in, what was it? And why is it still etched in our hearts? What can I, as an individual, take away from it? At its core, the Battle of Basantar exemplifies a perfect amalgamation of astute generalship, impeccable command decisions, and unwavering courage of those who face the crucible of war. The strategic brilliance displayed, coupled with the soldiers' indomitable spirit, culminated in a victory that echoes through history. What renders this battle eternally significant is not just its military triumph, but the profound lessons it imparts. The essence lies in the synergy of leadership, valor, risk-taking acumen, and an unrelenting determination to surmount insurmountable odds. This confluence, the perfect orchestration of military prowess, speaks to the potential of overcoming challenges through strategic planning and steadfast execution. The valor displayed on the dusty plains of Basantar became a beacon for resilience in our own struggles. It reminds us that, akin to the battlefield, life demands courage to endure, a willingness to take calculated risks, and an unwavering commitment to success, even in the face of adversity. The Battle of Basantar thus becomes not merely a historical event, but a living embodiment of human spirit, capacity to triumph against all odds. As we reflect on this historical battle, let us not merely commemorate the bravery of soldiers, but internalize the lessons it offers. Leadership, courage, and an unyielding spirit are indomitable forces that can turn the tide, both on the battlefield and in the intricate tapestry of our lives. As we reflect on the gallant actions of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, we recognize not only an individual hero, but a legacy that continues to inspire generations of military personnel. His courage, selflessness, unwavering commitment to duty serve as a beacon for those who follow in its footsteps. In fact, his valor can be understood from the fact that Major Amin from the Pakistani Armed Corps stated, the only occasion when a breakthrough could have occurred during the 1971 war was when 2 squadrons of 13 Lancers attacked together in the afternoon. But a gallant, last-ditch lone stand by 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal of the Pune Horse averted the danger. So now, since I'm towards the end of my presentation, let me end it by narrating a small but a very important incident about his valor and courage, which was also acknowledged by his adversaries. So in 2001, Brigadier M.L. Khetrapal, his father, who was then 81 years old, he decided to visit his birthplace, which was now in Pakistan. So at the Lahore airport, Brigadier Khetrapal was met by Brigadier Khwaja Muhammad Nasir, who again took it upon himself to become his host, his guide. In fact, Brigadier Nasir went out of his way to ensure that Brigadier Khetrapal had a satisfying and a nostalgic visit to his old house. So while he was returning from his trip and on his way back, he was once again the guest of Brigadier Nasir for 3 days. So finally, on the last night, before Brigadier Khetrapal's departure, Brigadier Nasir said, and I quote, "Sir, there is something that I wanted to tell you for many years, but I did not know how to get through to you. Finally, fate has intervened and sent you to me as an honored guest. The last few days we have become so close to one another that has made my task even more difficult. It is regarding your son, who is of course a national hero in India. However, on that fateful day, your son and I were soldiers, unknown to one another, fighting for the respect and safety of our respective countries. I regret to tell you that your son died in my hands. Arun's courage was exemplary, and he moved his tank with fearless courage and daring, totally unconcerned about his safety. Tank casualties were very high, till finally there were just 2 of us left facing one another. We both fired simultaneously. It was destined that I was to live and he was to die. It was only later that I got to know how young he was and who he was. I had all along thought that I would ask for your forgiveness. But in telling the story, I realized that there is nothing to forgive. Instead, I salute your son for what he did at such a young age. And I salute you too, because I know he grew into such a young man in the end. It is character and values that matter. The next day, photographs were taken and Brigadier Khetrapal returned to Delhi with a small note, which is there in the slide itself. With warmest regards and utmost sincerity to Brigadier M.L. Khetrapal, father of Shaheed 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, Paramveer Chakra, who stood like an insurmountable rock between the victory and failure of the counterattack by the spearheads, 13 Lancers of the 16th December 1971 in the Battle of Barapind, as we call it, and the Battle of Basantar, as the 17th Pune Horse remembers. So this slide shows a photo of the Centurion tank, which was displayed during the Republic Day Parade of 2022. This slide also has a young image of 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal. And finally, there's a picture of Brigadier M.L. Khetrapal and Brigadier Nasir after this visit. So that was it for my presentation. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Arushi, for inspiring narration of saga of bravery and supreme sacrifice of 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, who continue to live in the heart of all the young officers passing out proudly from Indian military academies. And now I have the honor to briefly introduce a very distinguished personality, Air Marshal Vinod Kumar Bhatia, Param Visist Seva Medal, Ati Visist Seva Medal, and Veer Chakra Bar. He has 5,500 hours of experience on 35 different types of aircraft, including transport aircraft and helicopter, a qualified pilot, attack instructor, and an Air Force examiner. A postgraduate of Defence Service Staff College, Wellington, and Royal College of Defence Studies, London, UK. He also attended the first ever NBC Warfare course for officers of Indian Armed Forces at Timoshenko Academy, Moscow. He was awarded the Veer Chakra Gallantry Award in both the Indo-Pak Wars of 65 and 1971. Flew more than 30 operational missions during the 2 wars, done counter-air interdiction, close-air support, photo recognition, etc., destroying 3 enemy aircraft on ground, and numerous other military hardware and installations of the enemy. The Air Marshal had a rare distinction of being the Commander-in-Chief of 3 operational command of Indian Air Force, that is Central, Southwestern, and Western Air Command. May I request you, sir, to kindly share how the air battle unfolded and especially your valuable combat experience. Air Marshal Bhatia, sir.
Thank you very much, Colonel Rajan, and many thanks to the MIT University for inviting me on this very happy occasion to commemorate the 1971 victory over Pakistan. As we know that since its very inception in August 1947, when India was partitioned to support the two-nation theory, Pakistan's military high command had always believed that the defense of the eastern wing lied in West and adopted the same as its war doctrine in 1971. The strategic role of the forces in the East was to hold out until Pakistan had defeated India in the West. The bulk of the Pakistani forces were therefore deployed in the West. As far as the Pakistani Air Force was concerned, it had deployed just 1 squadron of F-86 Sabres, albeit with an augmented UE in East Pakistan, while the bulk of the aircraft remained in West Pakistan. India's war philosophy during the 1971 war was, however, just the opposite to Pakistan's, with the point of decision being the East. Air Chief Marshal Pratap Chandra Lal led Indian Air Force in consonance, had deployed its forces with such numerical strength in the East so as to overwhelm the Pakistani Air Force by unleashing an all-out offensive in the shortest possible time and attain absolute air superiority. This not only helped the Indian ground forces to operate freely in enemy territory, but also made possible the famous Tangail drop that resulted in the race to Dhaka for its subsequent fall in record time. In the Western sector, however, the IF had adopted a policy of calibrated approach with the aim of causing as much attrition as possible to the enemy, but keeping own losses under control. It was appreciated that territorial gain in the Western sector was not so much of an aim as preventing the enemy from making advances into the Indian territory. The air campaign in the West was structured accordingly. Now, when the war started, as you know, Pakistan actually declared war against India on the 3rd and carried out preempted strikes against Indian Air Force bases in the West as well as in the East. To counter that, on the 4th of December, 1971, the war, which started on 3rd, was given the place to unleash our force, Air Force, against the Pakistani Air Force in the West as well as in the East. I recall that I was at that time posted to number 32 Squadron in the Western Theatre, and we were based in Amritsar, perhaps the closest combat airbase to Pakistan border. And our task, one of the major tasks, was to attack one of their newest bases in the West, called Shaukat Road at that time. And later on, it was named as Rafiki Air Force Base. But that happened after the war. The Indian Air Force, as we know, under the able leadership of Indian Air Force Chief P.C. Lal, had adopted a philosophy of overwhelming the Pakistani Air Force in the East so that the war could be conducted and culminated in the record possible time. And therefore, it had deployed as many as 12 squadrons of Indian Air Force in the East. In the West, the basic philosophy was to actually control and keep the Pakistani Air Force under control so that nothing could be done in the West as well. Pakistanis, as we know, they wanted to create everything in the West. That means fighting the war in the West. That was their philosophy and had been their philosophy till their very inception as a nation. Their scoring point was in the West, and East would take care of itself. So they had actually deployed only one squadron of sabers in the East to counter Pakistan, to counter Indian assault. So as we know, on the third evening, Pakistani Air Force carried out preemptive strikes against the Indian bases in the West. But it was a hurried attack and not much damage. I would say hardly any damage was caused to the Indian Air Force. And Indian Air Force was then ready to take on the Pakistani Air Force as soon as possible. I remember we were given Shaukat Road, or later as it was called Rafiki Air Force Base, as the target for the strikes, counter strikes to be carried out against the Pakistani Air Force. Incidentally and interestingly, Shaukat Road was a new base. Actually, it had come up between 65 and 71, sometime during that period. And its real location was not even known to our intelligence. There were 2 or 3 possible locations which were given, and therefore we had to select all 3 to be able to carry out an attack on the one which is the actual location of the base. I remember I was posted to 32 Squadron at that time, and we were in Amritsar, and the target had been given to our squadron to undertake. And even till the very latest point of time, we thought that there were 2 possible locations of this base. And then when we carried out the planning for the attack, it was done for both the bases, for both the locations, because we did not know actually which was the correct location. But of course, we had carried out certain amount of, shall we say, planning, and in that we had decided one particular location as more likely location. And it turned out to be the correct location. And therefore, our attacks were, from the very beginning, very successful. The squadron carried out 3 strikes against the Shaukat Road. And I happened to lead all of them, all 3 strikes. These were done on the 4th and 5th of December in 1971. Incidentally, we were operating from Amritsar so that we could reach that particular base, which was at the extreme, shall we say, range of the Su-7 aircraft that we were flying. And, we had to fly with 4 drop tanks and full internal fuel to be able to reach that base, because it was, as I said, was at the longest range as far as the Su-7 aircraft was concerned. On 4th of December, we started off and went there. And as I mentioned to you, that when we pulled up for the thing, we found that the target airbase was right in front of us, and we carried out the attacks. And in the first day itself, we carried out those attacks and actually claimed as many as 7 enemy aircraft on the ground. The strikes were highly successful, and it actually kept the Pakistani in that particular base under control. As far as the rest of the country was concerned, it had also been attacked by the Indian Air Force, different squadrons. Similarly, it was done on the East Pakistani bases. In East Pakistan, Pakistani Air Force had deployed just one squadron of Sabres because their philosophy was that the defense of Pakistan lay in the West, and therefore the major air force was in the West, and just one squadron was in the East. And it was that much easier for the Indian Air Force to be able to overwhelm that squadron. Incidentally, the Indian Air Force had deployed as many as 10 squadrons in the East to counter Pakistan. So it was a piece of cake for them to be able to actually overrun the Pakistani Air Force in the East and make it that much simpler for the Indian Army to be able to go in and carry out their missions and be able to achieve their aim as soon as possible. Now, as I was talking about the attack on Shaukat Road, Shaukat Road was actually a very secret base. As a matter of fact, it had come up between 65 and 71 and not really known. As I mentioned earlier also, that this was something that we had to plan, and that is what we managed to do in the end. When we reached there, we were actually confronted with as many as 108 anti-aircraft guns. It was very heavily defended base. And during those strikes, we lost 2 aircraft of our own to PAK, that is the anti-aircraft fire put up by the Pakistani Air Force. But we managed to get as many as 7 aircraft of theirs on the ground. What was our philosophy, actually? The philosophy was to overwhelm Pakistani Air Force in the East so that, as I mentioned earlier also, so that we could take on the Pakistani forces in the East. Now, after the counter missions were done, and we had achieved our success in the West as well as in the East, the Indian Air Force also carried out a lot of other missions which were there to help the war effort. One of those was the night bombing of the bases. The second was to be able to get as many of their aircraft as possible while carrying out the attacks. The general concept for gaining air superiority was to mount relentless attacks on the Pakistani airfield and radar installations so as to force the Pakistan Air Force to deploy a major portion of its resources for their defense. Such a reaction would then enable the Indian Air Force to concentrate on special strategic strikes and close support to ground forces with relative impunity in the light of subsequent pattern of PF reactions. The perfect concept stood vindicated. Indian Air Force also carried out a large number of interdiction, should we say, strikes against Pakistan. And one of the major targets that Indian Air Force took upon was the energy sector. As you may recall, on 4th of December, a major strike which was carried out against the Karachi oil base, which was there in Karachi port. And this was also conducted by the Indian Air Force. But that was not the only one. Major oil depots were also targeted, as also even smaller depots, to prevent Pakistan in terms of getting as much of energy as possible. And we all know that towards the end of the war, Pakistan had actually come to its knees as far as its petroleum products were concerned to be able to continue with the war. It is just their luck that the ceasefire was announced because our aim by then had been achieved of liberating East Pakistan. Few things that I remember very correctly was attacks like what happened in Jaisalmer. As you all know, in Jaisalmer, it was Longewala, which was attacked by the Pakistani Air Force with the idea of actually advancing to Jaisalmer and taking over that base. But it backfired because they were found out, and then hunters based at Jaisalmer carried out strikes against Longewala to be able to immobilize and actually wash out the Pakistani armor advance into India or into Rajasthan, in Jaisalmer sector. The Indian Air Force finally, if you recall, had a total air superiority in the east versus the sole squadron that Pakistani Air Force had. And they were able to carry out the attacks with impunity and be able to reach a stage where East Pakistan could be liberated at short notice. So this is what actually happened in the air, and Indian Air Force was able to create a total air superiority in the record time and was able to achieve its aims with ease without having too much of losses, both in the east as well as in the west. As far as the west is concerned, IO's all-round offensive was able to achieve the objectives in the Western theater. The answer to that question should be an emphatic yes. Undoubtedly, the IO's well-orchestrated counter-campaign in the opening days of the war succeeded in putting the PF very considerably on the defensive. According to our famous author, Jasjit Singh, the PAK was forced to employ as much as 57.8% of its total air effort for air defense. The consequences of this process was spelled out by a Pakistani Major General soon after the war. Jajit quotes him saying, "The defensive strategy of the PF in fact gave the IF a free hand to interdict Pakistani communications and other strategic targets and to keep pressure on the Pakistani troops in the forward areas. IF could operate without hindrance in the forward areas and over Pakistan, vital communications along her borders." After achieving its counter-air objectives, quickly shifting its focus onto CSFO with large-scale interdiction of Pakistani communication systems and the Pakistan's army logistics areas, as also providing the required amount of closer support to the army, the IF not only pinned down the Pakistani army in different locations, but also succeeded in providing the requisite counterforce to Tika Khan's strike force, immobilizing it before it could even get off to a start. In the end, while the IF acted as a spearhead in the Indian military blitzkrieg to Dhaka in the east, in the west, it stood as a wall to thwart any offensive design of the Pakistani army to violate India's territorial integrity. Perhaps it would be best to quote Air Chief Marshal Lal, who summed up by asking a question: how did we perform in December 1971? And also provided the answer by saying, well, we can generally say we did not do too badly. In fact, we did rather well and won the war. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, sir, for the immersive talk on the air operation of 1971 war and your gallant personal experiences. It is indeed an honor to have you with us today to celebrate this auspicious occasion of Vijay Diwas. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And now, I invite Mr. Kartikeya Gupta, PhD scholar at AIDSS, to deliver the talk on innovative use of bombers by Indian Air Force in 1971 war. Kartikeya is January 2023 batch PhD scholar doing research on role of Indian Air Force for strategic power projection. Kartikeya, please.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. With your permission, may I share my screen?
Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now, before I begin, I would like to just highlight a few general observations that I've made, and that is to do with the war. So the 1971 Indo-Pak War, as we know, was a decisive military victory of the Indian Armed Forces, and the Indian Air Force actually played a pivotal role before the commencement of the war, during the duration of the war, and also after the end of the war. So the Indian Air Force also, when we talk about the role it played during the war, the tactics that it employed, many of the tactics that it had employed was a result of the lessons that it had learned from the 1965 war, which was very important. In the 1965 war, there were some challenges the Indian Air Force had faced. And considering that, Indian Air Force drew the lessons from that, applied them, and then, most importantly, they applied the modern concept of air power. They applied that in the 1971 war. Another interesting thing is that when in regards to the Air Force, they actually capitalized on India's geographical size, the strategic depth that India has. And not only that, they also capitalized over Pakistan, the numerical advantage that they had in the terms of assets, in terms of any assets that could be engaged in the warfare on both fronts, on both the Eastern Front and the Western Front. There's one particular important thing that I would like to share. Right. So this has to do with what India's military force structure was vis-a-vis Pakistan prior to the 1971 war. And they had only one objective, that was building asymmetry by widening the quantitative gap and narrowing the technical gap between the two armed forces. So if you look at the first objective, that is building asymmetry by widening the quantitative gap, what they did was on the Western Front, Pakistan Air Force had a total of around 280 bombers and fighters with them. But what India did is India actually fielded around 350 fighters and bombers on its Western Front. Other than that, on its Eastern Front, that is where it actually gained a lot of asymmetry. Where, as Sir had mentioned, Air Marshal Sir had earlier mentioned, that Pakistan had only one squadron of F-86 cyber jets. That were only around 16 jets in the East Pakistan. India had actually fielded around 12 squadrons, around 160 aircrafts, excluding the Canberra squadron that was placed in Gorakhpur. So there was a big quantitative gap between the two forces. Also, if we talk about the objective of narrowing the technical gap between the two armed forces, this is something the Indian Air Force did particularly well. Now, I'll cite a story. This is a real incident. So what happened was, before the war, we had understood that MiG-21 was a backbone of our fighting structure of the Indian Air Force. And we realized that in the 1965 war, it had a lot of issues when it was meeting the F-86 Sabre jets of Pakistan Force. Basically, when the missiles that it had, the missiles that the MiG-21s had, was basically K-13 air-to-air missiles, and which were quite inferior when compared to the Sidewinder missiles the Pakistani Air Force had employed. Not only that, the MiG-21s had they didn't have any combat gun, so that was something that was needed to be remedied. And when the HAL was approached, the Hindustan Aeronautical Limited was approached for that. They actually denied it. They said that it's such a short notice, we'll not be able to do it. That is when the Air Force actually exemplified the leadership. There was an there's an Air Marshal Malse, who was the Air Officer Maintenance at the time, and he took the task. He actually got multiple squadrons from the Western Front, and he fitted them with a gondola PAK and with a 23mm internal gun that could actually target Pakistan and then reduce any kind of asymmetry between our assets and the Pakistan's assets. Other than that, what the Air Force did was it adopted a four-pronged strategy that involved upgrading existing platforms. I'll be giving you only examples of the Air Force. Like it upgraded MiG-21s and it upgraded your Hunter aircrafts. It acquired new systems, like we acquired Sukhoi 7 aircrafts. We also complemented old and reliable platforms with the newer platforms, like how we, in the Pandapur base, we actually kept MiG-21s along with the Sukhoi 7 aircraft. And lastly, we had also galvanized the indigenous military-industrial complex. That is, we actually pushed the HAL to engage with the Soviets and build our military complex, build our military manufacturing capabilities. So this is what the Air Force had in plan, and it executed it very efficiently. Now, now the most important thing is coming back to my theme, that is the innovative use of bombers. Now, bombers are something the military aircrafts that have the primary purpose of dropping large bombs over enemy targets from a high altitude. Now, why bombers are preferred? Bombers have a lot of inherent advantages. They have a lot of they have long range capabilities. Through that, they can actually push. They can project power, and through projecting power, they can also ensure conventional deterrence, because the enemy will think twice before attacking you. Not only that, the altitude at which the bombers flew, that actually prevented them from attack by anti-aircraft guns. This was also seen in the 1965 war when the Canberra bombers were used, and the Pakistani anti-aircraft guns, they could not actually harm any of these Canberra bombers. So India actually gained a significant advantage over there. So other than all the strategies that I earlier mentioned, war is a place where new strategies come into picture. And that is what I'll be talking about. So the first instance I'll be giving you is an instance of the de Havilland Canada DHC-4 Caribou aircraft. So Caribou aircraft is basically a tactical transport aircraft that we had imported from Canada. And it has a lot of capabilities, as in it's a rugged plane and it can take off and land in a very short air strip. So that is one of its biggest advantages. So after the war had begun, we had started actually attacking the East Pakistan, because there was only one squadron of Pakistani jets over there, and Tezgaon military air base that was located very close to Dhaka. So at the time, we realized that while we were bombing the strip during the day using our Hunter aircrafts or MiG-21 aircrafts or our Sukhoi aircrafts, the Pakistanis were actually able to repair that aircraft and that airfield at night. So what we needed to be creative and actually engage the airbase bomb the airbase continuously, even at night, so that the repair teams, Pakistan's repair teams, will not be able to repair the airstrip. So that is what that is where the Caribou picture comes in. And there was a group captain, VC Mankotia, and he came up with this idea where he wanted to utilize this tactical transport aircraft, convert it into a bomber, and then utilize it to bomb the airfield at night. Now, this was a very innovative idea. It was a very bold concept, but it was actually approved by the Eastern Air Command. They saw merit in the idea, and they approved that. So, 4 Caribou aircrafts, they started from Guwahati Air Base, which were they fielded over there, and then each Caribou aircraft carried around 10 into 450 kilogram bombs, and then they actually launched it at Dhaka for 3 continuous nights. Not only that, there was a place called Brahman Bharia near Agartala, around 30 kilometers from Agartala, and they had bombed there was a Pakistani brigade over there. They had bombed the Pakistani brigade for 2 days, for 2 nights continuously, so that the teams at Dhaka airport and also at Brahman Bharia, they were harassed. They were harassed successfully, and Indian Air Force could actually ensure that those Sabre jets that could use the runway, they could not effectively function. One other example I'll be giving you is the example of Antonov AN-12 aircraft. Now, the Antonov AN-12 aircraft is basically a heavy military transport aircraft, and it is an aircraft that generally is used to carry troops or provisions to the front as well. Now, the Air Force again came up with a very innovative idea. They wanted to convert this transport aircraft into a bomber. And they did that. They converted this transport aircraft into a heavy bomber, with each bomber carrying around 20 into 226 kilograms bombs. So on 3rd December, when the Pakistanis had attacked, the aircraft was used immediately, and it was used to actually target a Changamanga forest ammunition depot that was located around 60 kilometers southwest of Lahore. That saw that how Indian aircraft could actually go deep into Pakistan territory and bomb critical areas within Pakistan. So this aircraft was used. Not only they did that, they also were deployed in the Jammu and Kashmir area, Jammu and Kashmir sector. The most important among them was that how they were utilized to target Hajipir Pass. Over there, the Pakistani had a big brigade. They had several brigades over there. They had planned to actually target Poonch area, but continuous bombing by the AN-12 aircrafts over there destroyed any of their plans. Their bombing was so effective and powerful that it generated landslides in that area, in Hajipir Pass area. And after that, the Pakistanis could never mount an invasion of Poonch. Also, another major operation that they did was after the war had ended, after the Pakistan had surrendered, but on December 17, they had actually attacked Skardu Air Base on December 17, and the Skardu Air Base was located around 100 kilometers north of Kargil. It was very important to actually destroy any of the Pakistan's capabilities in that particular area. Moving on to the last bomber aircraft, which is a regular bomber aircraft of the Indian Air Force. Now, this is a magnificent plane. Now, it's one of the fastest planes, and it can also carry a good amount of bomb load. So each plane can carry around 4,500 kg of load, and this was used from the very first day of the war. Immediately after the Pakistanis had attacked on 3rd December, after the launch of Operation Chengiz Khan, the Canberra bomber was actually used to launch 23 sorties on the night of 3rd December, and they attacked areas, they attacked military installations, they attacked air bases, they attacked radar installations, and they destroyed 2 air bases, the Sargodha Air Base in Punjab and Masoor Air Base in Sindh area, in such a manner that they were not operational afterwards. Not only that, they continuously bombed Pakistani air bases for all the following days of the war. Now, the Canberra bombers, they came under the command of Central Air Command, and they were located in Agra, Pune, and in Gorakhpur. Now, you had one jet bomber squadron that was located in Agra, but you also had one photo reconnaissance bomber squadron. And this photo reconnaissance bomber squadron was also very instrumental in war. They actually captured photographs of Pakistani installations. And not only that, they also captured the aftermath of the war, aftermath of battles. Like, for example, here we can see the Battle of Longewala, as Air Marshal Sir had earlier mentioned. This photograph is actually taken by a Canberra photo reconnaissance squadron. And over here, we can see a crisscrossing of Pakistani tanks as they were trying to flee from the battlefield. So the Canberra PR squadron actually received 1 Mahavir Chakra and also 3 Veer Chakras for their activities during the war. So in a war, it is essential that we be creative, And the Indian Air Force effectively did that. The Indian Air Force effectively used its aircrafts, not only the bomber aircraft that it had, but other aircraft that could be converted and then it could be utilized for another role. Now, many of the pilots over here, especially for the Caribou aircraft, they were not trained to actually go for bombing missions. Despite that, they took on the task, and it shows the leadership of just shows the leadership mantle of all these Air Force officers. And because of the Air Force quick actions, they actually ensured a quick victory, essential victory over Pakistan. And the Air Force played a very pivotal role. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Kartikeya, for your interesting perspective of innovative use of bombers by Indian Air Force during 1971 war. It is really very informative. Before I invite the next speaker, Dr. Subodh Sahi, to talk about architect of India's victory during 1971 Indo-Pak War, that is Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, let me introduce him. Colonel Dr. Subodh Kumar Sahi, an associate professor, AIDSS, MIT University, was commissioned in Mechanized Infantry, Recce and Support, and has more than 36 years of illustrious career in Indian Army. An alumnus of Sainik School, Amravati Nagar, and Defence Service Staff College, Wellington. He has done his PhD in International Relations from Pondicherry University. During his illustrious career, he has held many coveted appointments like GSO-1 Operation, commanded an elite unit, Director Military Training at Army Headquarters, and Military Advisor to Deputy Chief of Army Staff and Colonel General of a division. He has been Senior Research Fellow at United Service Institution of India, USI, Delhi, and Senior Fellow at Center for Land Warfare Studies at Delhi. He has been Adjunct Faculty with Manipal Academy of Higher Education. An avid reader and has written 2 books and number of articles on contemporary topics on issues related to international relations with focus on India's relation with its neighbors. Awarded Chief of Army Staff Commendation Card during the Command and GOCNC Commendation Card twice for distinguished service. Colonel Subodh Sahi, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajan, sir, for your kind words. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Balvinder Shukla, ma'am, respected General Gadiok, sir, esteemed panel speakers, distinguished guests, and fellow learners. Good morning to all of you. It's a great honor for me to speak about life and contribution of one of the most remarkable military leader in the history of India, Field Marshal Manekshaw, better known as Sam Bahadur, and widely regarded as the architect of India's victory during the 1971 war. As a tribute to the India's most beloved soldier, a biopic, Sam Bahadur, acted by Vicky Kaushal, was released very recently on 1st December 2023, a movie which will inspire you all for a lifetime. General Manekshaw's military journey began when he joined the first intake of India Military Academy at Dehradun in 1932. His distinguished career spanned over 4 decades. He served with distinction in World War II, the Indo-Burma Campaign, and the 1962 Sino-India War. His exceptional leadership skill and strategic acumen earned him rapid promotion, and he became the 8th Chief of Army Staff in 1969 and the first Indian Army sir to be promoted to the rank of Field Marshal. He was soldier and general's general. He was outspoken and stood for his convictions. He was immensely popular within the services and among the civilians of all ages. He had boyish charm, wit, and humor were other notable qualities of independent India's best-known soldier till date. For his distinguished career, he was awarded with Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, and Military Cross during the World War II. The turning point in General Manekshaw's career came during the 1971 war, during the Bangladesh Liberation War. Amidst growing political pressure to intervene militarily, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi sought Manik Shah's assessment of the Indian Army's preparedness for war in April 1971. Manik Shah, known for his blunt honesty, told the Prime Minister that the army needed at least 6 months to prepare adequately for the war. Despite facing political pressure, Manik Shah stood firm on his assessment. He believed that the premature attack would only prolong the conflict and lead to unnecessary casualties. Sam Manik Shah guaranteed that if he was to handle the conflict at his own terms, he could guarantee victory. After the Cabinet Committee meeting on security, Mrs. Gandhi asked General Manik Shah to stay back. Sensing her anger, General Manik Shah asked, quote, "Would you like me to send in my resignation? I could do that on the ground of health, mental or physical." Mrs. Gandhi asked him, "Sam, is everything you told me is true?" His reply was, "Yes, it is my job to tell you the truth. It is my duty to fight and fight to win." Unquote. With his military acumen, he assured the Prime Minister that East Pakistan would capitulate within a month, but on the condition that he be allowed complete autonomy, the timing of launching, and at the place of his choice. And he would report to one political master, and that is the Prime Minister. Mrs. Gandhi agreed to the terms of engagement, and with that, the preparation for war commenced. He meticulously prepared the army, focusing on logistical support, troop training, intelligence gathering. Prior to the war, the chief visited the formation in the forward areas and addressed the troops. He addressed the men in simple and clear words. Quote, "A soldier's business is to fight and fight to win the battle, not to molest and loot. When you enter Pakistan, treat the women with respect like would your own mothers and sister. Anyone disobeying my orders will be court-martialed. I am commanding soldiers and not a pack of thugs." Unquote. However, he was much tougher with the officers. During the address to the officers, he said, quote, "Truth should not become casualty of war." He expected honest reporting of losses and gains. He would accept an error of judgment, but any officer who deliberately gave misinformation about the ground situation would be sacked forthwith. Nor would he condone any sexual abuse. If you feel the urge, put your hands in your pocket and think of Sack Manik Shah. Unquote. He understood the importance of a well-thought military strategy that would not only lead to victory, but also minimize casualties and collateral damage. His insights into the terrain and capabilities of both the Indian and Pakistani forces were crucial in developing a winning strategy. Sam Manik Shah formulated a strategy which would use all the three services of the Indian Army, along with the auxiliary support from the Mukti Bahini. Under his leadership, the Indian Army carried out a combined arms strategy. The synchronized efforts of the Army, Navy, and Air Force under his command showcased his ability to manage and integrate different military branches effectively. One of the General Manik Shah's greatest strengths was his ability to inspire and lead. Manik Shah's connection with his troops were extraordinary. During war, he engaged with soldiers, displaying genuine interest in their well-being. His leadership instilled confidence and high morale among the troops. The soldiers under his command believed in their mission and were willing to go to a great length to achieve victory. As per him, the day a soldier ceases to believe in the cause, the day he decides he is not willing to lay down his life, he is not worth the salt on his bread. In 1971 war, Manik Shah decided to delay an attack, prioritizing troops over immediate victory, exemplified leading by example. As per him, The leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. A soldier who loves his country and works for his people will never make a wrong decision in his life. Maniksa exhibited exceptional leadership by not only devising tactical strategies, but also leading from the front. His presence on the battlefield inspired his troops and boosted their morale. This was evident in the Battle of Longewala, where his hands-on guidance, strategic planning turned a seemingly impossible situation into a resounding victory. Maniksa's leadership style emphasized empowerment. He trusted his officers and encouraged them to take ownership of their task. This approach fostered a sense of responsibility and commitment with the ranks. The Battle of Basanta serves as testament to this philosophy, where his subordinate commanders executed brilliantly, highlighting their capabilities under his guidance. His ability to lighten tense situations with humor helped in reducing stress and creating a positive atmosphere. His interaction with soldiers during the 71 war showcased his approach, nature, and his knack for building rapport with the soldiers. As per him, the only thing that is more important than you are your men. And one of the most important things for a good officer is a sense of humor and a sense of proportion. Manik's straightforwardness and integrity were exemplified when he stood firm against political pressure during the 71. His commitment to the welfare of his troops and the integrity of the military institution showcased his unwavering dedication to his principles regardless of the circumstances. General Maniksa displayed a genuine concern for the humanitarian aspects of the conflict. With all his strategic ideas, occupied Dhaka effectively, surrounded by the Indian Army on 9 December 1971, Sam Maniksa implored the Pakistani forces to surrender unconditionally, promising them that they would be treated fairly and saved from the retribution of East Pakistan's population. Maniksa's first message to the Pakistani troops on 9 December 1971, quote, Indian forces have surrounded you. Your air force is destroyed. You have no hope of any help from them. Chittagong, Chalna, and Mangla ports are blocked. Nobody can reach you from the sea. Your fate is sealed. The Mukti Baini and the people are all prepared to take revenge for the atrocity and cruelty that you have committed. Why waste lives? Don't you want to go home and be with your family? Do not lose time. There is no disgrace in laying down your arm to a soldier. We will give you the treatment befitting a soldier, unquote. The war, which lasted for 13 days, resulting in the surrender of over 93,000 Pakistani soldiers. Mrs. Gandhi wanted Sam to take the surrender, but he refused to steal a march on Eastern Army commander, saying that he would have proudly done so if the entire Pakistan army had surrendered. Maniksa became known for his compassion towards the prisoner of war. He addressed them personally and talked to them privately with just ADC for company. While they shared a cup of tea, he ensured that they were well treated by the Indian Army, made provisions for them to be supplied with the copies of Quran, and allowed them to celebrate festivals and receive letters and parcels from their loved ones. He retired from active service on 15 January 1973 after a career of nearly 4 decades. He settled with his wife, Silu, in Kunnur, the civilian town next to Wellington Cantonment, where he had served as a commandant of the Defense Services Staff College. To conclude, Field Marshal Sam Maniksa's legacy extends far beyond his military accomplishment. He was a man of integrity, principle, and unwavering courage. He stood up for his beliefs even when it meant challenging political authority. His life serves as an inspiration to military leaders and civilian alike. His qualities of leading by example, making swift decisions, empowering his team, infusing humor, and upholding integrity remain timeless lessons for leaders across various domains. His legacy serves as a guiding light for aspiring leaders, inspiring them to embody his principles of dedication, humility, and unwavering commitment to the greater good. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Colonel Sahi, for your well-researched and moving discourse on one of the most illustrious and intriguing persona of Indian Army, and that is Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. Thank you. And now I would call upon Dr. Navneet Kaur to give the customary vote of thanks. Dr. Navneet Kaur is Assistant Professor at MIT Institute of Defense and Studies. She is Gold Medalist in Defense and Studies in her Masters and recently completed her PhD in Military Psychology from Punjabi University, Patiala. She is proud holder of NCCC certificate from Air Wing. She has done advanced course in French language from Alliance Francaise, Chandigarh. She has participated and attended many international and national seminars, workshops, and conferences. Her areas of interest are military psychology, military sociology, science and technology in warfare, and international relations. Dr. Navneet Kaur, please.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, sir. The India-Pakistan War of 1971, also known as the Bangladesh Liberation War, was a military conflict that began on December 3, 1971, and ended on December 16, 1971. The war lasted for 13 days and ended with the surrender of Pakistan forces in Dhaka. It resulted in the end of Pakistan rule in East Pakistan and the birth of Bangladesh as an independent nation. The India-Pakistan War of 1971 was a major turning point in South Asian history. It led to the creation of a new nation, Bangladesh, and solidified India's position as a regional power. Vijay Diwas is celebrated every year in India and Bangladesh to celebrate victory over oppressive forces of Pakistan. On this day, India pays tribute to the war heroes who sacrificed their lives fighting for their motherland. Celebration of Vijay Diwas and paying befitting tributes to our gallant heroes has been possible because of the great motivation we receive from our venerable founder president, Dr. Ashok Kumar Chauhan, Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhan, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla. We are deeply thankful to all of them. We are also thankful to our guest panelist, Lieutenant General Dharamveer Kalra, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Lieutenant General Shantanu Dayal, Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, Air Marshal Vinod Kumar Bhatia, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Veer Chakra and Bar, and Colonel Dr. Subodh Sahi for their valuable insights into various aspects of 1971 war. I also thank and appreciate the AIDSS PhD scholars, Ms. Arushi Anthal, for her immersive talk on the supreme sacrifice by Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, and Mr. Kartikeya Gupta for his educative talk on innovative use of bombers by Indian Air Force. We are profoundly thankful to Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gadyok, Director General AIDSS and ACDSA for his welcome address, and whose guidance has been of immense value, and Brigadier Dr. A.K. Tiwari, Director AIDSS, for his valuable direction and support. I thank Colonel Dr. Rajan Bakshi, Director ACDSA, who orchestrated this important event with perfect coordination. I also thank Assistant Director AIDSS, Dr. Ritu Garover, the coordinating staff, and IT support staff who have made it possible to commemorate Vijay Diwas in a befitting manner. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Navneet, and thank you, everyone. We have come to the end of this grand event. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can I end the session?
Yes, please.